but she's actually part of a larger story. There are 3 Gorgon sisters, and she is the one that is capable of turning men to stone. But they start out more as fears and sounds in the night. But again, it's the ingenuity of a hero that conquers Medusa. And it's Perseus who, by looking at a shield, sees a reflection and is able to decapitate her. And it's Athena who goes and takes her snaky head, puts it on the center of her aegis, and it becomes a kind of protective symbol. And out of her neck is born Pegasus, whom we all love. So not every part of Medusa was wretched. There are some very wonderful things that emerge. And in fact, her image changes significantly from its earliest manifestations, where she's got a lion tongue and a mane and snakes coming out all over the place. And then in the Hellenistic period, she's this femme fatale with brooding, pouting lips, and it becomes an alluring creature as opposed to a frightening one. Not all of the monsters are fully physically described in literature, and it's the artists who contribute to forming their image. This is true with Siren, too, isn't it, Louise? I think.
Well, the Siren, certainly in Homer, she's distinctive for her voice, not her appearance, and it's the artists who create the image. Yeah.
Right, and not every monster made it into the artistic tradition. They had some favorites, and they had to do with actually what was beautiful, even in its monstrous form.
So is that why satyrs often appear like on drinking cups and things like that? Because you're drinking, you're having a good time, so a sort of sexual beast, because what we're looking at here, a lot of the images that people can see if they're looking at their computer or on their iPods are things that come from cups or from vases. They're domestic things, not like we wouldn't necessarily think of having like a horrible, scary devil on our drinking cup. So these are charming at the same time.
Well, satyrs are funny.
Yes.
I mean, and so certainly there's something you might enjoy seeing when you're drunk, but they can also be a warning because their behavior is a little embarrassing often. So you get a laugh, but you also get a warning at the same time.
You wouldn't mind laughing at somebody else who was doing this, just that sort of thing.
Yeah.
We like to make fun of monsters because it sort of stills them a bit. It neutralizes them.
Yeah, and the Greeks have a great literary tradition of humanizing monsters. I mean, Polyphemus, the one we started with, there's these great stories about him in love and how he yearns and looks at himself and talk about his unibrow and how gorgeous he looks to himself.
I was wondering about that because here he's the big monster on the vase we started with, but he's also reaching up and he's sort of stroking the cheek.
That's right. And
the
so
animal.
it actually does start in Homer, where he really cares about the ram. And when Odysseus comes out the last one, he says, "Oh, Papon, oh, my pet, why are you coming out last? You used to always be the first one striding out into the meadows, and here you are coming last." And there's this sort of tenderness that he shows for his ram. So it's this humanizing
moment. And then he goes on to feel sorry for himself. Yeah. You're coming out last because you know your master is so bereft because he's lost his eye, and you would also want me, if I could only find that nobody, to smash his brains out against the floor.
Yeah.
And you go from this, tender expression of love to a complete self-pity to a fury, all within 10 lines.
Do you think, I'm just thinking in terms of this kind of Jungian idea, do you think that the hero and the monster, there's anything about early childhood ideas about being protected by the parent or being rejected by the parent?
I once knew a child who needed to go to bed with a red and white sock. Just that was all that's necessary. And I think every parent knows that there are these magical objects that make kids fearless.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned the bedroom because, of course, that's where monsters live. They live under the bed and in the closet.
This closing in is really something that's a very basic fear, that something's in the closet, that something under the bed, that something inside things. But even in Monsters, Inc., it was behind the door. That's where they were. And we all related to that immediately. The Greeks believed that monsters lived in the caves, or they lived in the woods and
top of mountains.
On the tops
of
mountains, that was where they were.
They were in a lot of places. They were not in the heart of the polis.
No,
they did think of the sea as sending out a lot, didn't
they? The sea,
because a lot of risks for the Greeks must have come out of the sea. But A lot of them are
Yeah, a
produced
lot of
from
great
the
sea monsters.
Yeah.
But some of them that aren't even sea monsters in the traditional sense are born, if you read the Theogony by Hesiod, they're actually born from sea creatures, and you can
Right,
trace
exactly.
lots of these monsters back. And Polyphemus, again, to come back to where we started, he's born from Poseidon, the god of the sea. So there's this strange way in which the sea has this functioning in the Greek culture, because I think lots of dangers came from the sea for them. Like outer space, maybe for us, it's the unexplored region where scary things come from.
That's a fundamental fear.
Yeah.
As Jung says, the more deep you go, the more similar we are.
And when you consider what the ancient Greek world looked like,
Yeah.
you know, it's a far-flung set of cities that run from all the way across the Mediterranean up into the Black Sea, across North Africa. You took a lot of risk to get from one place to another. And also, it's really changeable. And that's one of the striking things about the Mediterranean. It can be perfectly lovely, and within minutes, you can be hit by a wind and a storm that is devastating. And so this notion of things being able to change instantly, beyond your control.
Yeah, that changeable thing is really there in the monsters, because there's that description of Typhon's voice where he can be like a god, or he can be like fire, or he can be like a lion roaring, or a bull, or all these other things. There's scariness in what's constantly changing throughout the changes of the other.
And it's the stories that are designed to ultimately, I guess, if children learn about them, and that it teaches them something about how to navigate in this world.
Great. Well, thank you, everybody. This has been great. I really appreciate everybody coming in. Thanks. And everybody should come to the Carlos Museum and see and look for some of these creatures, big and small, on all their vases and cups. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm not scared of monsters! I'm almost scared.